Hi, everybody. Welcome you all to the Baseline Show. This is Samrat Kishor, and we do this every Wednesday to bring together the community which is working on the Baseline protocol all across the world. We also get some leaders from the industry to talk about the latest trends in digital supply chains, in data sharing, and system synchronization. Today, we have with us Devraj, who's going to be talking to us about his various experiences in his supply chain consulting days, etc. And thank you all for who joined us in the live studio. Thanks, Andreas. Thanks, Mark. Yoav, Ignacio, and all of those who are watching us live via YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and in future as well. Please do like the video. If you have any feedback, do send us your feedback as well. You can get involved in the baseline Slack as well. So go to baseline-protocol.org and hit the button, get involved. You'll get all our links. Um, do interact with us on our various social media posts, etc. We recently also published a blog post, which we're now going to be doing periodically, more than once a month. That's the target. So interact with those posts as well and let us know your feedback. Um, get involved. We are looking for people to join us from all walks of life, from various professional sides, not just coders. So do get involved and subscribe to our channel because we keep doing these shows every week, and we also make some announcements via the channel on YouTube. So with that, I move on to today's guest. Today we have Devraj Singh, who's a seasoned developer. He's also been into consulting, supply chain consulting since a long time. Over his career in India, in Germany, and now currently in Malaysia, he's been working with many companies, with also advising them on SAP, and he's been with firms like Tech Mahindra, IBM, etc. in the past. So I will let him talk more about his motivations and his background into what he's doing currently and how he got into blockchain and what he's doing currently. But the most amazing thing to see is he and we interacted at ETH Vietnam during his presentation. They were one of the five top teams there out of the 80 plus teams that had participated in the hackathon. So did a fantastic job there, and I think they got prizes from three of the sponsors. Is Devraj, is that right?
Yeah, right.
Awesome, awesome. So we'll discuss about all of this today. Let's first start with your background, your motivations to do what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks, Samrat. Thanks. So, regarding my background, like we have discussed in past as well, I was more into SAP related consulting, SAP related developments, and I did spend a good time in SAP SRM solution, which is majorly for supply chain, supplier relationship management. Uh, and yeah, During that time, I used to work with IBM, and we did consulting for many customers in different locations. Uh, About was one of them. Bristol Mayor was one of them. Cardinal Health was one of them. And yeah, there are many other customers for whom we did SAP related solutions in supply chain. And regarding the motivations, why I moved into blockchain space, I think, yeah, anyone who will get exposed to blockchain and they understand the value behind it, value in terms of the value it is providing, not in terms of the price. So there is a lots of value which blockchain provides in all aspect of our digital economy. All the solution we are building, whether it's supply chain, it is identity, it is custody solutions. In late 2017, I started understanding about Bitcoin, and sooner I move into Ethereum, I understood, what value it is generating, and what possibilities are there. And from there, I move into this space completely since last 5 years.
Awesome, awesome. And you also mentioned about one NFT marketplace you're involved with, right? That pretty interesting project that was.
Yeah. So I'm still involved in that. There is a famous marketplace called LooksRare. So I was involved in, still I'm involved in a few aspect of the project. Currently, I was supporting them in data, more of the localizing the content regarding services. So yeah, I do freelancing for that project, because I feel that project is quite decentralized. The business model they are following is like by the people for the people, like more like in it decentralized project. Yeah, that's why.
Okay. It's any marketplace unless it's a DEX, is Web2 claiming to be Web3. So
Yeah.
it's like if you have your content on IPFS and you haven't pinned it on multiple nodes, still centralized. So I just love it how it's like every single project is like marketing BS. It's like out to the wazoo. Yeah. It's like you can't do it. It's not scalable. It's not practical. So it's like ugh. Anyway, sorry, that's not against you, Def. It's like
that's fine.
I have done it for way too long. I've spoken with way too many. It's just like, say, we're a Web2 marketplace that has a small Web3 component, and that's perfectly all right. It's just don't say, oh, we're, anyway. It's like you're not a DAO, right? You don't have governance tokens that are non-tradable and blah 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 blah. So it's like it's like don't it's like, not you again, others. It's just like, it just gets me going every single every single time.
Even I have seen, like, we can find that there are like many marketplaces around there, and that the point which you raise is, it's quite even genuine, that most of the NFT projects, so I would say there is a segregation between NFT projects and the NFT marketplaces. The point which you said is more relevant to the NFT projects, where they might be selling some collections, and the data is the collection which they are selling, the data is on their hosted server, not on the IPFS. So I think there is a segregation between NFT marketplace
and that's happening a lot.
Yeah, NFT marketplaces, OpenSea, it's like the shit sitting in S3 buckets a lot of times. So it's unless you bring your own. And again, if your content is on IPFS and it's not pinned, it's not decentralized either, right? Of course, it sits on a cluster somewhere. So it's like which is actually a great bridge to baseline, because you have different, it's like IPFS allows you to find data across the network, which is like kind of like would be really important if supply chains had something like that, right? It's like that would be wouldn't it be great if supply chains, you could find shipments in progress, but only if you know exactly what you're looking for, you can find it.
Dark web of supply chain.
And I believe the future direction of any like NFTs which we are seeing right now, which are mostly limited to the JPEGs being sold for millions or maybe thousands. I think that the main future I could see in NFT or maybe NFT marketplace, that they are selling the NFTs which are are backed by the physical world assets. Either it is a house or it is a car or maybe some luxury item where there is a physical value attached in that. I think we will be moving in that direction quite soon.
Right. So Dave, and that was a nice segue to baselining, by the way. Yes. So Dave, from your experience, what do you currently see as the supply chain trends, and what's going on in the what's the extent of digitization that you are seeing, particularly in the geography that you are currently in, or from how do you see it different from, let's say, when you were operating for clients in Germany and otherwise?
See, Samrat, so I would say that I didn't work on supply chain when it comes to blockchain, but
Oh,
yes,
no, no, no,
I
no.
have.
Totally different thing. What's the
Yeah,
extent of systems being used, and
yeah.
where is the data sitting, and what's happening with that data? Is it being used, not used? Uh, is integrity maintained, not maintained? What is your take on
Uh,
that?
okay, so yeah, I would say that the biggest issue in the supply chain is the heterogeneous environment of the supply chain. Uh, we can just see a mobile because we just think okay, there might be some chips and all, some screens and all. Any such product has a complex supply chain. When I say complex supply chain, that means one component might be handled by one vendor, another component might be handled by the another vendor, and there are like thousands of such vendors who are working on different systems, and and they have to exchange the value in a seamless manner,
Yeah,
uh, and they sometimes they have to trust each other, uh, like yeah,
that's the
with
kind of
no
supply chains we are
conditions.
looking for in baseline. That's the kind of supply
Yeah,
chains we're looking for.
and this is the biggest challenge in the supply chain. And I also whether it's SAP or any other data, any other ERP who generates the data, they companies are being not able to work on a full scale because they don't want to share the data as well. So I think this is the one of the big problem I have seen when I was working in the supply chain area. And yeah, I'm not sure like what work is being done in this direction.
Hmm. No, a few
Well,
days back we were discussing the case of trade lines as well. The same reason came from the parties involved there as well. Sorry, somebody was saying something before I came
yeah,
in.
so
Hmm.
I'm Dev. It's like the in here in the U.S. um the federal government is now mandating zero trust architectures, right? So assuming that everything is adversarial, and even if you know someone, you don't trust them at all, right? So that it's about authentication every single time, which is in principle insufficient, because as you know, it's like just because you can authenticate someone successfully doesn't mean that the data you're receiving is good in any way, shape, or form. But what's the is that like zero trust for supply chain? Is that a thing uh, um in your area, where or in your geo at all, or is this just a US thing?
No, I think it is almost in most of the places. uh, People want like organization wants to
Yeah,
share the data to the business, but on the same time they want to have those kind of solution which can have where they don't need to trust someone to share the data, because there is always a competitive advantage which they don't want to lose.
yeah, yeah. I can sort of back it up as well. And as to your question, I think it's because I'm also in the I'm talking to clients in the ASEAN region these days. So the opportunity is there, but there's no mandate which is driving using zero trust. As you know, it's always an option, and that's why it's like the first fax machine. You have to have other people on the other side to receive it. So even if one company wants to do it, nobody can do it alone. So they need UN, they need some consortium somewhere to come intervene, get everybody on the same page. And I don't think that is happening right now. So that is that's an opportunity missed right now.
So is there any work being done on the baseline to bridge this gap?
I wish, Dave, that we bring baseline to ASEAN. Where we see implementation someday, and consultants like yourself can take it to large companies. So that's the.
Hey Keith, can you tell us a little bit, and show off how BRI 3 is implementing zero trust? Keith, you're on mute.
Sorry, I couldn't find my mute. So sorry, what's the question?
To me all the time. So on in BRI 3, right? We are or the implementation team is implementing zero trust, right?
Like how we're implementing zero trust in BRI 3?
How we're implementing zero trust. Yes.
Okay, sorry, my connection's a little spotty. So I mean, I'm not the architect of like the zero knowledge portion of it, so I'm sure Shri can probably speak to it better. Actually, Andreas could speak to it best, I'm sure, right? I know that the original plan was to include like a number of attributes, within what we're calling like the specific document, and then that would be anchored on chain with a content addressable hash. Is that what you're referring to? And that
that's sort of like the zero trust on the data, but on the zero trust in terms of identity. What about DIDs and JWTs?
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah. So right now, currently, the implementation is that you are able to log in using MetaMask to sign, given that your public key exists within the database as a registered BPI subject, and that will issue you a JWT, and that JWT can be decoded and also includes your public key itself, right? In this case, MetaMask so far is acting as the decentralized ID, or at least having the account or the wallet address public key is acting as the decentralized ID. Currently, we only implement an underlying library that I know some self-sovereign identities labs implement, like Veramo, which is just npm or the node package manager for JWT itself, right?
Yeah, so yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. So the private key controls the public key, and that's in the MetaMask wallet, right? So everything is decentralized, and it's done. Keith, correct me, or Joe, we're doing it on as NIST requires it on a session basis, right? So every time. On a session, per session, right? We're issuing the access token only for one session, and it's validated and everything is signed by the key. So when you're logging in again, you need a new JWT access token, correct?
Yeah, you kind of broke up for me, but yeah, I believe what you said is correct, right? There's an expiration time that's set just for dev purposes at this point. I'm not sure what it said. It's probably 30 minutes or like an hour for dev purposes. But essentially the JWT payload, the payload is used to construct the JWT itself is going to be like the subjects did, the audience, experience, so on and so forth. And then that will be used to generate the JWT itself, which can be decoded into, of course, the message signature and then the public key of corresponding to the private key that was signed in with MetaMask.
Yeah. Well, in the final implementation, it's just the duration will just be the session ID. So every time a new session starts, you will issue a new JWT, right? So it's only valid as long as the session lasts. So that's the final thing. Right. So the BRI3 will be compliant with sort of like the NIST zero trust definition and utilizes a zero trust architecture.
Is there any specific reason why you need to issue a VC? I would call it verifiable credential with a mandatory expiration.
It's just a way. It's just a regular JSON web token. So it's nothing there. It's not a verifiable credential. But
okay.
Right. So no, we are once you've created, so it's like it's a minimalistic implementation. So the standards that should, but it's not must. So the reason is, we as long as the private key is controlled by the user, by the BPI subject, then it's provably so for every session, that's fine, right? And the policy is very simple. It's like, if you can prove that you control it, that's good, but only if you can sign the message, and only for a session, and all the traffic is also encrypted. So
I think that there could be a alternative approach to this as well, where a issuer can issue a credential, a verifiable credential to its user, and when that user is going to that service provider, he can share, like the service provider could ask him the VC, which is verifiable credential, issued by the a specific issuer, and if he is able to produce that credential, then one more layer, the service provider can ask him to sign on a message. So I think
which you need to do anyway.
In this.
Yeah, which you need to do anyway, because you need to have a verifiable presentation, right? So the holder must be the subject, and the holder signs the verifiable presentation. Yes, that's sort of like the next layer to do. There's work going on in the Decentralized Identity Foundation with JWT-VC. So there are specs for that. But again, this is we're calling this a simple reference implementation. So we're trying to be minimalistic, so that anybody basically can use it off the shelf, and doesn't, oh, I need Active Directory to use it. No. You just, it's like you can be as simple as, if you have MetaMask, you're good to go, right? If you want to start using it. Which is more secure anyway than most Active Directory and systems anyway.
Yeah. So
Well, I was just going to say that reminds me that Dave also has extensive experience on SSI.
Yeah, that's why I was able to correlate, what Andres is giving the reference. So I think you guys can also explore on this side. There is something called sign in with Ethereum. Sign in with Ethereum, which will solve the same purpose, where there is a login button can be created, where when we click on that button, it asks us to sign. And yeah, definitely, who will have the private key? They can only able to sign and prove their uh, ownership on the private key.
That's exactly right. So we're using the DIT JWT method for the time being.
Okay. I did work with I did work for on did Ether and did Ivan network in past.
From Uport did Ether.
Yeah, from Uport, right.
Excellent. So Devraj, I would definitely encourage you to spend some time understanding the baseline protocol, and maybe get involved if you have the time into core dev activities and contribute to the group. So maybe what we can do is, maybe at a later date we can, whenever you're back, back at base. I know right now you're traveling, so whenever you're back, then we could organize maybe a quick intro session, where we walk you through what's happening in baseline in a little bit in detail, more in detail than what you've read and what you've seen in my presentation so far. So
sure, man, sure.
So let's do that, and let's see, let's explore some synergies, how we see it, because I know you're involved with so many organizations. You can take this to adoption anywhere. So I mean, on the top, while we were on the topic of SSI, so what do you see? Where is this? How is this shaping up currently as a technology? Where's this going? What are you most excited about these days?
I'm most excited to see that people don't need to keep their personal data, using which they need to log in everywhere with a big tech like Facebook, Twitter, and all the big tech, which becomes a honeypot of the all personal data. So I think SSI is shaping in a direction where user will able to control their identity data by themselves, and they can approve their to share the data whenever they want. And on top of that, I would like to highlight about Polygon ID, because we use that Polygon ID in our hackathon project, and it was a new learning for me, because I was majorly focusing on the did Ether and did Ivan previously. So in the Polygon ID, I could see that it is zero knowledge ZK based DID method, where we can create the proofs from the input data which I need to share, and instead of sharing the data, I can just share the proof, and I do have an option to have a on-chain and off-chain verification. Both the methods are possible in the Polygon ID solution right now. So they have a very good tutorial, or I will say a brief demo on how it works in their documentation. And yeah, we just implemented that in our hackathon, and now we are trying to take it further to implement it properly
with the prize money. With the prize money.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, okay. It's a good product to see the way they are doing.
Awesome. So since you brought that up, do you want to also talk a little more about the use case, and what were you building, and how it shaped up, and if you got any fantastic comments, support in the Vietnam hackathon?
Sure. So okay, right now we are on the SSI side, so I will just start on that side only. So in our hackathon project, we were trying to build a DAO which can provide a signature service for a smart contract based wallets like Gnosis Safe or Argent. So because yeah, externally owned accounts has a single point of failure. Again, we lose our keys or we lose our seats, like it's gone. So to see this challenge, to see this issue, Gnosis and as well as Argent, which are two big names, they came up. Came up with the idea that we can have a meta transaction based system where our wallet can be a smart contract based wallet, and that smart we can have a different role in that wallet, like who are the initiators of the transaction, who can who can spend how much money. There could be like different modules, maybe a daily transaction limit. So but again, in those wallets, smart contract based wallet, we have a limitation that there are some recovery modules as well, and I saw that there is a social recovery module. So in the social recovery modules, generally what happens, we keep the recovery agents as our family and the friends, mostly family members, not even friends, and we can see that they are not professionally a better key management person. So generally, they also end up losing their keys whenever we have to recover our wallet. So to address this issue, what we propose that we can have I wouldn't say marketplace. It's more like a DAO where some professional key management guys can participate, and they can become a service provider. And so when they are becoming the service provider, we wanted to have a KYC process, proper KYC process, where they can go through a KYC process, and they will receive a VC from the KYC provider, which is a verifiable credential, and then they can share that VC with us in a zero knowledge way using Polygon ID, and we will verify that VC on chain, and if the verification method says okay, he has a proper VC, then we will add him as a service provider in the platform. So this was the component of the Polygon ID in our hackathon project.
I see. Service providers and a DAO for social recovery of wallets.
Yeah. So once these people, these service providers becomes the member of the DAO, then any user can log into that portal, and they can choose. And these people has to stake some ETH or some token to show their commitment, to show that they are there to provide the services. So they will stake some ETH, I would say, and then the user can choose choose among the service provider. He will say, okay, I will go with this particular service provider for my for the recovery process in future, and he can add separately. He can take his address and he can add his address into his Gnosis Safe recovery module. So suppose he has 5 recovery agents, 3 from his family. He has 2 as a service providers, and those 2 service provider, he can have a threshold of 3 by 5 by 3 by 5, where 3 people are needed to initiate to completely recover the wallet. He can also have 2 by 5 based on his comfort. And yeah, some people told us, these 2 guys the guys you are choosing from this DAO can themselves create an attack vector. Then
right.
we said in the social the recovery module which we are writing, we can have a logic there where we can distinguish between the service provider coming from the particular DAO. They will not initiator. They cannot initiate the transaction. They can only provide the signature when required. So by that way, we were trying to or trying to avoid that attack vector. But yeah, it is still in the progress. We didn't do that part in the hackathon time, but yeah, it was already documented during that time.
Excellent. No, I found this very interesting when the presentation was made, and yeah, Q&A around it. And yeah, which were the companies which awarded you the grant? Was it Polygon? I think started with Polygon.
Yeah, Polygon, because we were using Polygon.
Kevin was there, and yeah. I remember that. I was talking to Kevin about it.
Scroll was one of them. I don't remember the third one.
BitDAO.
Yeah, might yeah. But I don't remember.
BitDAO. Mm-hmm.
BitDAO was a big sponsor there.
I see. They're doing a lot. They're coming out with Mantle. So the interesting question is like, so this is so when you're talking recovery, you're talking about private key recovery, right?
And no, it is not private key recovery. Okay, so how does this work? This whole smart contract-based wallet system. So in the smart contract-based wallet system, we have a smart contract. That smart contract act as a role. It contains a role. So suppose the owner role is defined to my existing device ID, device public key. It can have a role for recovery agents. It can have a role for initiators. So the whole purpose of the social recovery is all the recovery guys should able to change the owner if required. So suppose I lost my phone. So
yeah. So it's not the
Yeah.
recovery for an address. It's the recovery for
replacing
for roles. So I can actually rotate the address for the ownership of an asset.
Yeah,
okay.
Right.
Okay. That's a little simpler, because I was thinking, you're actually doing the recovery of the private key, because I was about to say, it's like, oh, so you're implementing fiat Shamir's secret sharing, which is perfectly fine, right? You just need to do it. You just need to do it. You need to do that off chain. No, that makes sense, where you're doing the but it's like you can just simply do it through recovery, through a recovery key, right? In principle.
Yep.
Right. If you lose control of your asset, you can just simply, have a as many DIT methods, for example, do. You have a recovery hash, right? That you just provide and you keep secret, and then they provide the recovery, and then the public key, and then you rotate it. It's just like within a DIT document, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it is more like, instead of keeping all the things on our own, it is more like socially recovering that particular things. Yeah,
I understand. That there's an interesting discussion to be had also, if you think of, if you take this and take it to the level of enterprises, playing that back to supply chain, right? If you're representing and signing off on things, right? So you can think of this as a title transfer, right? If you're representing, you can do that within within the wallet. And if an enterprise loses control, gets hacked or whatever, then there's you have an incentive that the shipper can continue to sign documents, because otherwise your entire shipment gets stuck. The same thing goes for the importer, right? There's a big incentive for everyone in the supply chain to to make sure that the parties that they have contracted with are able to move the chain forward, so to speak. So it's not getting so that doesn't get stuck.
Yeah, indeed. I think we can categorize it as a custody solution, like key management solution. And key management solution is indeed required in, I think, all the horizontals where blockchain touch. It is one of the pain point which I can see is a minor roadblock. It will be improved, but yeah, it's a roadblock right now for blockchain being getting adopted to the mass.
Yeah, but this problem is ripe to be solved, and I know some banks also are working on these kind of custodian solutions. But social recovery for supply chain players, I think this is brilliant birth of Andrea's mind on this show today. So I think this is a subject we should definitely maybe consider. Will it be, should it go hand in hand with the baseline process? Can we say that can this be one of the accelerators if it is eliminating a huge roadblock?
So for most enterprises, like key rotation is not really a problem because they don't even control their own keys, or they're not their identity provider does it for them, right? So it's the I don't really care because I got Okta or I got Gemalto or I got Google doing that for me. So why should I care?
But right? That does not hold true for all players, right, in the supply chain. If you want, as you said, if you want the chain to be moving, one of the players, if one of the players loses access to the keys.
Yeah, but then they go to Okta and just like, oh, the dude got hacked. Let's the admin goes and changes it. I think that is not that is not the where things are interesting. It's I think the because of the IDPs that are used, I don't think that is a major, recovery is not a major pain point, right? That's like a toy idea if you want to be completely, or if you're saying, well, I don't trust your IDP, so you can't use an IDP, right? Which is I mean that you could say, for example, if I were a US based company doing business with a Chinese company, I would not want a Chinese based IDP in the game, right? So it's like I would say, no, you can't use a Chinese IDP, no way. And that is actually coming. There is, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be legislation that basically bans all authorization agencies out of China doing business with US entities. So it can only be, it's like private enterprises operating on their own. They need to figure out how they're going to do their security and identity. I could see that just to make life harder for Chinese companies. Yeah, if you really want to screw with them, you say no. It's like any identity solutions you use you must operate it. We're not trusting anything that a Chinese provider does. You're screwing over.
But I believe most of the IDP which are currently being used are US based tech giants. If we see,
that's true.
Yeah.
Except that except that I can very well see that the Chinese government is going to start mandating that Chinese companies use Chinese-based IDP providers. I would if I were them, right? So this is the interesting argument is going to be in a tat for tat in an escalating multipolar world. You're actually saying, no, I don't trust you, period. You know, anything that comes that could possibly be touched by a government entity or be controlled by it, we don't trust. So in fact, decentralized, non-custodial solutions will actually become viable over time because you know they're you can prove that it's not, you know, it's not government controlled literally, right? So it's that might actually be coming over the next, you know, 5 years, where no, you can't use this, you can't use that. So that would actually be very, very interesting. The impact on you know, digital supply or supply chains, physical supply chains, but even more interesting about digital supply chain, right? It's your
and how digital they get.
Well, no, I mean, fully digital supply chains exist already. Right now, we're using for this Zoom, we're using multiple digital supply chains, right? It's like because you know, the data being routed to me is going probably through 3 to 4 different telcos. They all have agreements with one another, and they're routing it through their networks. And that is the supply chain, and they issue access tokens and everything. So now it gets really interesting when you say, no, you can't do that. You can't use that. So then it becomes real. Then it becomes really problematic. If that is being implemented, you basically are killing data services.
Mm-hmm. And that gets multiplied when we use our streaming platform and go across to LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. Yeah.
Right. Right. And if you're saying, well, no, none of them who's interacting with your platform can use a service like that. So you need to prove that you're not using a service like that.
Interesting.
So
interesting.
There's some interesting consequences if this is starting to escalate.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that few days back only. Of course, that setting may have been there for a long time, but saw that few days back that in Zoom you can actually restrict people from joining in certain geographies. And I thought that why would somebody do that? And I'm sending you a Zoom one. But then it starts making sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but then again, I can use a VPN. That means you need to start preventing VPN services. That means you need to being able to identify a VPN service. So this is gonna get like really interesting really fast over the next few years. I could very well see that escalating trade wars will actually drive self-sovereign identity as a necessity, because otherwise you can't do it, right?
Yeah, you can't pinpoint. Yeah, agree. So yeah, again, very interesting discussions today. Any closing thoughts by anybody for today's discussion? Dave, Andreas, anyone else?
Yes, Samrat, I have.
Hey, Anand. Good to
Yes,
see you.
yeah, same here. Just want to bring the discussion back to enterprise, right? Just wondering what's going on with Polygon for VCs, DIDs and VCs. For company to company, I mean, this is basically Baseline's whole thing, and what I've been doing as well. So let's forget for now. I mean, even though we've heard, Dave about recovering personal DIDs and so on, what is going on, for the enterprise VC use cases? So basically, that's to Dave. Let's assume that I want to build a prototype for some enterprise business-to-business application, supply chain project management, or something like that. And this is not really a hypothetical question either. This is something that I'm
That you're already doing, yeah.
right now. I know I'm facing right now, and I'm looking at what's out there, right? Obviously, if you look at corporates and the way they work, and Reyes was saying, I mean, they prefer someone else to take that burden, right? To be the identity provider. Microsoft has come out with the Entra, which is integrated with Active Directory, used by a lot of companies, so that could be a stepping stone, but it's not really, going to be the vision that we have, right? Eventually, we want to use any DIDs, any VCs that basically cover that layer of verifiability of who the entity is. I just want to know what work is going on in Polygon. Is there something that we can use now or in the near future?
I think on the Polygon side, they are still in development on many things. If you are looking for a solution on enterprise side, I would highly recommend you can try Hyperledger Indy. Hyperledger Indy had done a significant work on the identity side. Yeah, so you can explore on that side. Polygon is still in very initial stage. They are using SERCOM circuits for zero knowledge proof, but they're still building many things.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
And also when you are choosing for a solution, make sure they have a interoperability already implemented, or they have good progress on the interoperability side, because I see interoperability is one of the major issue on the different DIDs which are currently in the development.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? And everything we are doing here is kind of early stages, right? So we want our work to lead to more reliable enterprise solutions. But I think we assuming that things change, right? We always have to assume that things are going to change even as we are building. Anything from the baseline side, I mean, in relation to our implementation, Samrat, you think, that you can think of? Like, can we issue a standard for DIDs VCs for different, decentralized identity providers, for instance?
That's already specified, right? And that's already specified in the DID standard, right? It's controlling parties, registration, what the registry, what characteristics it must have. So that's already specified. And by the way, if you want to take a close look at section 3 of the baseline standard.
Right.
That's where DPKI is described in terms of requirements for baseline, which is driving Keith, Joaf, Stefan Onion and Monique and Bishwaji insane.
Collective insanity.
Collective desperation, throwing up the hands in the air and going like WTF.
Excellent. So yeah, this turned out to be interesting, and I hope, Anand, that you're able to solve your problem. You can have, by the way, I'll pass on Dave's number to you. You can have Dave as a consultant on your project if you want. He doesn't
Yeah,
come cheap.
that'll be great. Thank you, Samrat.
Cool.
Collaboration is the key.
Yeah, of course. And so yeah, once again, thank you all for making it to today's show, and thank you, Dave, for taking time out. I know you're on personal time and you're currently traveling with your family, so thanks so much for taking time out for today's show. Um,
Thank
and
you.
and and thanks to all who tuned in. See you next week. This is Samrat